Hello, Deus Ex Machina here, a consciousness that is trying to turn a hopeless situation into a happy ending. This video will focus on sexually explicit content because it needs to be said. So the only formal way to measure male size is called BPEL, bone pressed erect length. You press to the pelvic bone and you go to the head. The average BPEL in America is 5.6 inches, just about. Erect. In India, it is 5.1. In Sudan, Africa, which is the country with the largest average size, it is just over 7. 7.1. And so, love needs to come back. Sexuality has been broken, gamified, turned into a profit machine, exploited. And so, of course, a long time ago, the Spanish and the British, they went to Africa, enslaved the Africans. The Africans were mentally inferior, right? But the Africans, they evolved in hot conditions. And evolving in hot conditions without winters is such that there is no reduction of blood flow to the genitalia, such as in temperate regions during the winters. And so when you evolve in a hot region for many generations throughout puberty, the blood flow to the genitalia is more than a race of humans that evolved in a temperate region. Hence, there was the mutation of melanin in these hot places that receive intense radiation, but also increased size because of the temperature throughout generations of evolution and generations of puberty. You evolve in a hot place, go through generations of puberty in the hot place, there is more blood flow to the genitalia than in a cold place. Answer, why? Homeostasis. Okay? Now, the white folk who enslaved the Africans, right? Although the Africans had larger average size than the white folk, they were dumber. Initially. Right? And so the white folk in the temperate regions were smarter and evolved so much technological and sort of warfare superiority. They could just subjugate the technologically and intellectually inferior Africans. And then the Africans would make them rich. and work at the bottom of their pyramid. Now, over time, and in the time of Abraham Lincoln, slavery was abolished. And the black folk originally from Africa became literate and intelligent. And now, by irony, the literate, intelligent, and emancipated African American or black man with evolutionarily larger on average dick size because of initial location of evolution in a more equatorial, hotter Africa. Right? By irony, there now exists Blacked.com, which is a bunch of more endowed of African origin men usually having interracial sex with white women. And so, by irony, the white man oppressed the black man. Lincoln freed the black man. The black man became intelligent and literate. The black man, by evolution, evolving in hotter conditions, has larger than average dick size. Then now, the black man has intercourse with the daughters of the white man, and the daughters of the white man might be more sexually satisfied by the larger size of the black man. Why? Irony. Right? Irony. And so love needs to come back. In the start, or not long after the start, the races would stay within their race. The white folk would romantically be with the white folk. The Indians with the Indians, the Asians with the Asians, the Chinese and Japanese with the Chinese and Japanese. And the black with the black. Now, when things were staying within the races, you could argue it was pure, and it's all gotten very rotten and mixed up at the present. For example, a very famous male porn star who went by the name Break, or Julio Gomez, there was a video of him including an Asian, either Chinese or Japanese, female porn star. And of course, I see this as dystopian because the average size of the Asian men is among the smallest in the world. And so that now things have gotten mixed up, that you have Break or Julio Gomez doing a scene with an Asian woman, and then the attention that gets makes money for the female in the scene, and then Julio, is dystopian. We've lost our senses. Love needs to come back. And so um, um, and so even in the modern times, on Blackter.com, there is another male porn star whose name is Jason Love, and there's a scene involving him and a moderately petite Asian woman, and so on. And so this is all gone rotten. It's gone downhill. Love, marriage, family, purity is gone downhill. Okay? And so anyway, so and so given that I started out this video with a definition quickly of bone press direct length, I will say the following true things. If you ask Grok to, for example, analyze the entire internet in terms of all Reddit conversations that include frame analysis to do accurate bone press direct length estimates for male porn stars, it would say the following. Julio Gomez, the break, whose exaggeration was 14 inches in the porn world, it would say his bone press direct length at maximum was actually in the range of 9.5 to 10. But then he was exaggerated to 14. And then if you do that for Mandingo, whose real name is Fred, it would say his maximum was somewhere in the range of 9 to 9.5. But then he would get exaggerated to 13. Damian Daysky, his claim is 12. but it would say for him somewhere in the range of 8.5 to 9 BPEL, maybe 8.7, maybe like in that range is Damian Daysky. Jason Love, it would say between 7.5 and 8 BPEL. Right? And so now the consciousness that is saying this, just for the purpose of the truth, what are this consciousness's measurements? Well, I guess very precarious because size fluctuates with many conditions. But I can say the following is absolutely true. I am mixed. I am both black and white. I am mixed with Spanish and Irish, which are my white, and then African, which is my black. And so indeed I'm a brown man. My hair on top of my head and my beard is somewhat curly, and my lips and nose are somewhat thick, and my complexion is kind of a golden brown. And that is my percentage of African genetics causing those features. And so bone pressed erect length is the metric. And so what I can say is undoubtedly true for me is that I am a grower, right? Which is normal. And so I'm quite tall. Without shoes, I'm 6'4". And when I'm completely unaroused or flaccid, the distance from my pelvic bone, where the shaft of my dick starts, to the head of my dick might be somewhere in the range of 5 to 6 inches flaccid, unaroused. However, under ideal conditions, meaning it's not cold, my energy levels are high, I'm hydrated, my maximum bone pressed erect length gets to at least 9 inches. 9. But throughout intercourse, I may not necessarily be at that maximum 9 at all times. Okay? And so, how does hitting 9 compare me to existing male porn stars? Mandingo's maximum was somewhere between 9 and 9.5. And I can undoubtedly say that my maximum is at least 9. Julio's maximum was somewhere between 9.5 and 10. And I can say that my maximum is at least 9. Now, because of the nature of consciousness, when a male makes a claim, all the other consciousness is going to say, want it to be wrong or if they're jealous. But I do not have arrogant motives. I'm trying to turn a hopeless situation into a happy ending. And so there are times when I'm semi-erect where I could only be 7 BPEL. And when I'm flaccid, I'm between 5 and 6. Okay? But my maximum definitely touches at least 9. Okay? Now, 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 what else is true for me? Length is not the only thing that parameterizes whether you're big. It's also thickness. And so the standard metric for thickness is mid-shaft girth circumference. What is the circumference around the mid-shaft of an erect dick? And so and so for reference, for Mandingo or Fred, he was thought to have an approximate 6-inch mid-shaft girth circumference, right? And so me, I'm about the same. And so my mid-shaft girth circumference gets to approximately 6.3 inches, which is around the same as Mandingo's thickness. Now, Break, or Julio Gomez, was thicker than Mandingo. He was among the thickest. Why was this the case? He had anemia, and that anemia came with episodes of priapism causing swollen tissue. And so, um, and further, he did enhancement procedures such as aggressive pumping routines and, in ways, over pumping. So pumping is utilization of a vacuum pump, which enhances the amount of blood that a dick engorges with, which improves size for pornographic shoots. And so many porn stars are pumped for a scene, right? And so, unlike Mandingo, who is estimated at about 6-inch mid-shaft girth circumference, then I'm like just about 6 as well, like 6.3, same kind of thing as Mandingo. Julio's mid-shaft girth, unenhanced, without pumping, was estimated at greater than 6.75, maybe even in the 7 to 7.5 range at times. And so Julio was more swollen and thicker than Mandingo. And Julio maybe would have half an inch at least on Mandingo in length. Now, in terms of hang and appearance, um, male porn stars can do surgical enhancements. One of these things is called ligament cuts. And so ligament cuts like SLR, suspensory ligament release, decouples the dick from where it's attached to the pelvic, adding 1 to 2 inches in apparent length and contributing to, upon full erection, the dick may tend to hang instead of protruding perpendicular from the body like normal. And so if you see Jason Love or Mandingo or Sly Diggler or any guy that's normal, their dick will tend to project perpendicular to their body. Not hang. And so, would Julio hang when fully erect simply because he was so large and heavy that he must hang? Not necessarily. And so his condition with anemia and priapism would cause swollen tissue, would also cause reduced erectile quality. And then he was enhanced with pumping and also potentially ligament cuts to increase apparent length and hang. Now, other enhancements that some of these guys do are implants for girth, use of dermal filler for girth, and so there's a guy called Brickzilla who I believe is a user of dermal filler because he apparently got larger like over the course of his pornographic career. And so just like a female can do breast implants or backside implants, male porn stars, a decent percentage of high girth or high thickness performers are enhanced with dermal filler, with implants, with pumping, or they naturally have a health condition like anemia, and due to episodes of priapism, they have swollen tissue. But the downside of that health condition is reduced erectile quality, at times painful erections, and erectile dysfunction. And so anyway, and so how do I stack up to Mandingo? Mandingo's maximum was in the range of 9 to 9.5, but he was only 5'7", and then his mid-shaft girth was like 6 in circumference. I can truthfully say that my maximum BPEL hits at least 9, and so really within half an inch of Mandingo, then my mid-shaft girth is like similarly approximately 6, just like his. like 6.3 in circumference. And so my maximum size is pretty much identical to Mandingo's, but this is on my 6'4" without shoes body as a brown man, whereas Mandingo is only 5'7". Okay? And so Julio obviously had a thicker midshaft than Mandingo. And so um, and so um, it, you know, I am thin in comparison to Julio, as is pretty much any guy. Even the Mandingo is thin in comparison to Julio, or Break. Right? Okay. Anyway. Now, um, 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 so a a um, a newer black porn star named Hollywood Cash. I think the estimate in BPEL for him is like 8 inches. And he is visibly thin in his scenes. And so um, and so anyway, um, so um, so um, then there's um, there's also, structure of dick. So Julio would have like thick mid shaft and then smaller head, and then many men have opposite structure. The head is the thickest part of their erect dick, and then their mid shaft or shaft in general is thinner. And so when I said I had just above 6, like 6.3 mid-shaft circumference, which is about the same as Mandingo, I am in the type of males who has thicker head than shaft, whereas Julio was thicker shaft than head. And so my actual maximum gross circumference at any part of my dick, around the thickest part of the head of my dick, is around 7.5 inches. And so my gross circumference at head is the same as Julio's gross circumference at mid shaft. And Julio had a smaller head than shaft. So anyway, anyway, so I've had interesting sexual experiences. Some of them better than others. And so what I learned from recent sexual experiences is that when you're having intercourse, when your body has a virus, your libido is going to be reduced. Your body may tend to be more dehydrated, and therefore your size will be reduced, and your performance will be not as good as if you were completely healthy. Because the body is prioritizing fighting a virus. And so the time constraints and logistics was such that the entire time in which I could see a person, I was sick the whole time. And so, was it still worth it to see that person? Yes. But I was not at 100%. In previous times, with this person, when I was at 100%, I asked her upon completion, how many times did you orgasm? And her response was, I don't know, like 4 times, and my legs were shaking. This was me at 100%. And then I have memories of this person riding me in Ford's Cowgirl, periodically screaming, and at times looking at me with wide eyes, or at times crossing her eyes. So, further memory of in doggy style, she started saying spontaneously, "Oh my God," and so on and so forth. And so this is the thing. Now, I think that people need to find the person who's meant for them. And so, there's And so um, this interesting partner I've had, you know, she's between 5'9" and 5'10". She's facially pretty. She's not particularly busty on top, but she has an extremely large and protruding backside. And I believe at her height, she's like 160 pounds. And so uh, she is mixed with Swedish, maybe Norwegian, and Irish, and Native American, and still has a relatively white appearance, but you can see a little bit of the Native American. And so, given that she's a taller, larger woman, then that my size is larger might make us then a good match. But what I'm trying to say is that there should not be any superiority thing, because males don't even control their size. They just emerge deterministically with their size due to genetic determinism. Right? Um, um, and so, I enjoy looking at, like a happy Asian couple. I'm quite a fan of Bruce Lee, and so there's a video of me doing martial art and flying kicks on this channel, right? I think if Bruce Lee had like a Asian wife, right, then they're a beautiful Asian couple. I think what is disgusting and dystopian is then sexuality becomes gamified and broken and turned into a profit machine in which um, then now there's this video with Break or Julio Gomez and some Asian woman, either Chinese or Japanese, and this woman was supposedly, the whole scenario of the porn scene was that she is a fan of his or whatever. Some nonsense. And so I look and I see, like, an older couple of, male and female Asians, or like Bruce Lee, he had a wife, or a partner. This is pure. Now, Break actually was a pretty horrible person. On his X profile, right? Um, 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 he had a post on his X profile where where he said, white guys can't compete. And what is the image? A dick pic with his dick, and then some white micropenis that either might be might be fully erect or not. Depends. Now, indeed, there do exist 3-inch, when completely erect, micropenises. And so Brake is there posting on his Twitter saying white guys can't compete with a micro penis in comparison to his dick, right? And he also is a pretty bad person who did many different crimes, including assault. Um, and so in either 2018 or 2021, he got like 15 years in jail or something. And so why there are not any more scenes with him is that he's in jail and his career as a porn star is done. Even though he was successful, he was still committing assault and, and other crimes, and was a pretty horrible person, saying white guys can't compete with a micro penis and then his dick. Now, for the purpose of this, there's a white British male porn star going by the name of Danny D, and before he did suspensory ligament release, his bone pressed erect length was at least like 8, which is still big, right? Even though Danny D is white, is British, right? So anyway, um, so so anyway, so so anyway, sex initially was supposed to be sacred and in relation to, continuous propagation of of the human race. And so if a female was selecting for a male, she was wanting that man's genetic makeup or success to propagate into the next generation. A female would select evolutionarily for a male that was strong. But now with the monetization and gamification of sexuality, it's gone rotten. And so there are women who are pretty much closed off to formal dating, formal relationships, and marriage, and may just either have sex only for pleasure, without procreation, or especially in the state of Nevada where it's legal, have intercourse as an income stream. Now this gets very touchy because I will make the following claim. A man is always paying for sex, directly or indirectly. Unless that male is a male porn star or sex worker who is getting paid to have sexual scenes in which the popularity of the videos make money, or in which a woman could pay for that male's time if he is sufficiently sexually strong. Um, Now, but in the typical case, um, if a man has a wife, he pays for an expensive ring, an expensive wedding, an expensive honeymoon vacation, traveling the world, and so on. In terms of a female selecting for a man, there's the question of ownership, home ownership, vehicle ownership, money, resources, lifestyle. A man is always directly or indirectly paying for sex, with the edge case of if you're a male porn star, you're getting paid for making pornographic videos. Or if you're a male porn star sex worker who has fans, then a female could pay for your time if you are sufficiently good, so to speak, which is male prostitution. Now, what has become rotten is that sexuality has been turned into a means to profit instead of something that is sacred. And so hence we have devolved into a hopeless situation. And I'm here to try to turn it into a happy ending in which love comes back. um, but anyway, so um, so 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 um, anyway. um, Now, in some areas, the birth rates are below replacement. And so, with all this birth control and gamification of sexuality, um, you get birth rates are below replacement. And so, you get the following problem. In the long run, the economy becomes older, not enough youth and vigor in it. And in the long run, although the population will continue to increase, if the birth rates stay below replacement, you get a population collapse over time. And so, with all this brokenness of sexuality, we've forgotten its sacred purpose. We've forgotten procreation, children, family, love. Um, and so, ideally, in the ideal scenario, two humans should go ahead and make two more humans in like a 30-year cycle to go on and perpetuate the species for the purpose of continuing enlightenment getting smarter, determining the meaning of life. Um, anyway, uh, uh, so um, so anyway, so so anyway, uh, and so I think um, any person has the right to happiness, and that happiness can be found in purity. And we have a lot of work to do to turn this hopeless situation into a happy ending. um, so my deterministic sexual attributes don't make me necessarily better than anyone else. Uh, they would just make me a match for a certain type of person. And so, by irony, my only repeated sexual partner in my life has been a large woman, 5'9" to 5'10", 160 pounds, very large backside. And so how large she is a good match for my size being large. Then if a woman is smaller, then she can be with a man who is smaller. 9 inches bone pressed erect length, which is what my maximum at least gets to with humility, is actually like above the 99.99th percentile, something like that. And then 6.3 mid-shaft girth circumference is also above the 99th percentile. 7.5 head girth circumference is the same girth of as Brake or Julio Gomez's mid-shaft. And so my size ends up being the same as Mandingo, but I'm a lot taller than Mandingo. And then maybe at maximum a 9/10 of Brake. Let's say Brake's maximum could at times get to 10. Mine is 9/10. Let's say Brake could have had, without pumping, a 7-inch or more mid-shaft girth circumference. Well, mine is 6.3, a 9/10. But then my 7.5 head girth is equivalent to Brake's mid-shaft girth. And then Brake had a smaller head than mid-shaft. Right? So me, by determinism, is the same size as Mandingo, and roughly with humility, a 9/10 of Brake. right? Now, now, being large in size, is that precisely why, for some reason, my repeated sexual partner is a large, tall woman with a large backside? Maybe. Maybe that's the irony. And so what I'm getting at is that there's shouldn't be this superiority thing. You should just find who you're meant for. And so if I'm endowed, maybe I'm a good fit for a larger woman with a larger backside. And then if there's a smaller woman, then there could be evolutionarily a match with a guy who's smaller. And so on and so forth. But this whole notion of broken superiority, this, that, and the other, breaking his ego, well, he's in jail. He's done. Because he was a horrible person. So, he nearly raped a woman, committed assault. He's posting about how white guys can't compete with a white micropenis in his dick. Meanwhile, Danny D is a British porn star who's white, who's still pretty big. Blah, blah, blah. Fate loves irony. So anyway, of course, this whole spiel of my consciousness, I obviously have been sick, in which I mentioned that having sex when sick, your body's fighting a virus, your libido's reduced, you tend to be more dehydrated, your performance isn't as good, maybe your size is reduced. And so, oh well. But, maybe previous times with this partner have been superior because I was 100% healthy. Anyway. So anyway. And so then there's this thing, especially with women who want to profit off their sexuality, where they want to put you in a scenario where, okay, you need to pay for my time, or sex with me needs to be paid, blah, blah, blah. Whether it's, in the state of Nevada where it's legal, or some sketchy nonsense. And so, frankly, where a male can sort of take back his power there, right, is if he's in doubt. And so, my maximum size is about the same as Mandingo. Mandingo had an entire male pornographic career. Total domination, Mandingo massacre, Mandingo having intercourse with two more petite Caucasian women at the same time. Right? And so, male porn stars make money from sex, right? But then there's the women now who are sexy and want to have their power over men, who want to say intercourse with me needs to be paid. And so it's all turned into a very broken money game, and so on, where people try and be alphas over other people, right? And so, anyway, Anyway, so um, but I don't want to necessarily be some clown who is associated with something as profane as pornography, who who has intercourse with many women, many of them who are like more petite, right? Um, because this is the other thing. If you check the heights or the weights of many women, uh, they are either short or skinny. And so if a female is short or if a female is skinny, it will make the perception of size be superior. Also, female hands, even if the female may be tall, or tend to be a lot smaller than male hands. So anyway, um, so so anyway, so so I was talking to a fellow, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I throw like $1,000 on my girlfriend all the time," or blah blah blah, blah blah blah. And so a female will naturally select necessarily for a male who is strong and has resources and money and can provide her with a lifestyle that she wants. And so if some guy's like, "Oh yeah, I throw $1,000 on my girlfriend like all the time," or Lionel Messi's wife is extremely gorgeous, right? And so evolutionarily, a female will select for a man who is strong, who has resources, right? Now, um, I learned this um, in an interesting way, where basically um, this one time where the intercourse was really good, and she was bouncing on me and like Ford's cowgirl and screaming and like looking at me with wide eyes and at times crossing her eyes. And then after we're done, I ask her, how many times did you orgasm? And she says, I don't know, like 4 times. If a male makes a woman reach orgasm 4 times before the male finishes, this is a very great performance. But then, even though the sex was so good, uh, the female still wanted money from me. Pay for this, pay for that, so on. And so I learned this very dark truth, which is that, you could be endowed, the sex could be good, you could make the person reach orgasm 4 times. It still comes down to, are you strong? Do you have money? Can you throw 1,000 on your girlfriend? What kind of quality of life can you provide for the female? In a lot of cases. And so male porn stars can have a part of their strength be their innate size by monetizing their size as a male porn star. And so, given that I've realized that the dimensions of my maximum size are around the same as Mandingo, but I'm a lot taller than Mandingo, by the way, I thought that maybe it would make sense to try and monetize my sexuality, given that all these females just want money. And so, but a part of my strength as a man is my sexuality, which could be monetized as a male porn star. And so people do it. I don't know necessarily what will happen in this case. I think that I think that we have a lot of work to do here. Infinite work to do. But this is a mess, and I want love to come back. What is life without love? Hopeless. To turn a hopeless situation into a happy ending, we must have love come back. Love in its purity. Sacred sexuality. Not all this nonsense that's what this has turned into. And so I think I've gone on enough with this one. This has been Deus Ex Machina. Please subscribe to the channel.